Welcome to Relationship Exposed. In today's video, we're diving into a story that feels almost too raw to tell, but it's one I believe many people will connect with, even if they never admit it out loud. Before I begin, I want to say thank you to my loyal subscribers who keep showing up and supporting this channel, and to those of you who are here for the very first time, welcome. I see you, and I'm grateful you chose to spend your time with me. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love for you to hit that button because your engagement, your likes, and your comments are what fuel me to keep sharing these stories. And after you hear this one, I want you to tell me in the comments how it made you feel, whether you're angry, sad, or shocked. Because this story isn't easy to hear, but it's real. His hand was still on my thigh when the front door opened. I froze instantly, every breath trapped in my chest, my pulse hammering so hard that I thought Daniel would hear it before he even saw us. Ethan's lips lingered hot against my neck, his body pressing into mine on the couch, and the faint taste of wine still clung to my tongue. The only light in the room came from the flicker of the television screen, a movie long forgotten, its sound fading into nothing. And then I heard it. The sound of a key turning in the lock, followed by a voice I knew as well as my own. "Emily," Daniel called, "my husband, my world, my undoing." That single word ripped through me like a blade. My blood turned to ice, my body rigid with terror. Ethan's hand tightened around my thigh, his blue eyes darting from me to the doorway, searching for an escape that didn't exist. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Then Daniel stepped into the living room. He still had his briefcase in his hand. His tie loosened, just enough to remind me of the long day he had just finished. His eyes swept the room, casual at first, then sharpened with devastating clarity as they landed on me. My blouse unbuttoned halfway, one strap of my bra slipping down my arm. Ethan's hand still frozen where it should never have been. The silence that followed wasn't silence at all. It roared in my ears, louder than any scream. None of us spoke, none of us moved, but in Daniel's gaze, I saw the truth laid bare. I saw the end of my marriage, carved into the emptiness in his eyes. "My name is Emily Carter. I'm 34 years old, and I live in the quiet, tree-lined suburbs of Denver, Colorado. From the outside, my life looked perfect, maybe even enviable. I married Daniel when I was 26 after 2 years of dating. We had the kind of story people admired. He was polished, dependable, the kind of man who always looked the part, whether in a perfectly fitted suit for a corporate dinner or a casual polo for a weekend barbecue. I ran a small but growing interior design business that kept me busy but also allowed me to build the kind of beautiful home I had always dreamed of. Together, we had everything people thought mattered: a 2-story house with white trim, a wooden deck out back, and a golden retriever named Max, who greeted neighbors with a wagging tail. From the outside, we were that couple. The couple people waved to as we drove past. The couple who hosted summer cookouts that others looked forward to. The couple that people admired and maybe even envied. But what no one saw was how hollow I felt inside. Daniel was a good man. I want to make that clear. He was steady, responsible, the kind of man who never forgot to pay bills on time, who reminded me to get my tires rotated before winter, who made sure everything in life ran smoothly. He made me feel safe. But safety is not the same as passion. Somewhere along the way, the spark between us dimmed. Our marriage, once full of energy and connection, became predictable, routine, almost mechanical. We made love once, maybe twice a month, and even then, it felt like we were simply maintaining something, rather than sharing something real. His focus was always on work, and I found myself drifting into wine-fueled nights with friends, quietly resenting the loneliness I felt, even when he was sitting right beside me. The cracks were small at first, invisible to anyone looking in, but deep down, I knew they were there. It was last spring when I met him. Ethan Brooks. He was 29, a fitness trainer at the gym I had joined in a half-hearted attempt to shed the weight I had gained from too many late-night glasses of Chardonnay. At first, he was just another trainer, the guy who adjusted the weights on my machine, or reminded me to keep my back straight. But Ethan had something Daniel didn't. He noticed me. Not in the casual way men sometimes notice women, but with precision. He noticed the way I wore my hair differently on certain days. He noticed the slight tremble in my hands when I pushed myself too hard. He noticed my nervous laugh, the one I used when I didn't know how to respond. And being noticed after years of feeling invisible was intoxicating. At first I told myself it was harmless, flirtation that stayed within safe boundaries. His hand at my lower back when guiding me to a machine. Compliments that walked the razor's edge of inappropriate but never quite crossed the line. Until one night, my phone buzzed. A message from Ethan lit up the screen. "Can't stop thinking about you." I stared at it for what felt like hours, my mind racing, my better judgment screaming at me to delete it and forget it. But then another message came. "Do you think Daniel appreciates you the way you deserve?" That was the message that cracked something inside me, that made me question things I had worked so hard to hold together. The first time we crossed that line was a rainy Thursday night. Daniel was out of town for a corporate retreat. After a workout, Ethan suggested we grab a smoothie. It sounded innocent enough, but as the rain poured outside, the air between us shifted. What should have been a harmless conversation turned into something heavier, hungrier, until suddenly I found myself in his apartment. His kiss wasn't soft or tentative. It was urgent, hungry, desperate, as though he had been waiting for years for the chance. His hands were confident, my body betraying me by responding before my mind could remind me I was a wife. Clothes fell away, boundaries dissolved. And by the time I left that night, I knew I had done something that could never be undone. I told myself it would end there, that it was just a mistake, a lapse in judgment, something I could bury. But the truth is, once you taste something forbidden, it only makes you crave it more. And it didn't end. It became a pattern. Stolen moments in his SUV parked in shadowy corners, hurried encounters after my yoga classes, sometimes even in the gym itself. Every time, I swore it would be the last. Every time, I lied. Because Daniel didn't know. And as long as Daniel didn't know, I told myself, the rest of my life could remain intact. But life has a cruel way of ripping away illusions at the exact moment you start to believe in them. And that's how I found myself on the couch that night, Ethan's lips on my skin, his hand on my thigh, the wine still sweet on my tongue, when the sound of the front door opening shattered everything. When Daniel stepped into the living room and saw me for who I really was, and in that one devastating moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. Daniel didn't speak at first. He simply stood there in the doorway, briefcase still in hand, as though time itself had frozen. His eyes were locked on me, but there was no anger in them yet, no screaming, no accusations. That silence was far worse than any rage he could have unleashed. I wanted him to yell, to demand an explanation, to give me something to fight back against. Instead, he just stared, and in his stare, I saw something shatter. He set his briefcase down slowly, almost carefully, like a man handling something fragile. Ethan shifted uncomfortably beside me, his hand retreating from my thigh, his posture stiffening as though he could still somehow walk away untouched by what had just been exposed. "Daniel!" My voice cracked, fragile, trembling. I didn't even know what I was trying to say. An excuse? An apology? A plea? The words dissolved in my throat. Daniel's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked briefly to Ethan, then back to me. His voice, when it finally came, was low and steady. "Get out." It wasn't directed at me. His gaze never left mine, but his words were meant for Ethan. Ethan hesitated. For a second, I thought he might try to speak, to defend himself, to somehow insert his way into this wreckage. But one glance at Daniel's expression, a calmness more terrifying than rage, was enough. Ethan stood, his movements jerky, his face pale. He muttered something under his breath, maybe my name, maybe nothing at all, and then he was gone. The door closed behind him, leaving Daniel and me in a silence that pressed down like a weight I could hardly breathe under. I wanted to move, to reach for him, but my body wouldn't cooperate. My heart hammered so violently that I felt it in my fingertips. Daniel just stood there for a moment, his eyes never leaving me. I saw the calculation happening behind his gaze, the way he was processing, replaying, piecing together every late night, every excuse, every unexplained moment from the past months. He didn't need to ask me questions. He already knew the answers. When he finally spoke again, his voice was almost gentle, but there was steel beneath it. How long? 2 words. That was all. But in those 2 words, there was devastation.